Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Heated Exchange, brought to you by Blitz League. We have been off for a couple weeks. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope your Thanksgiving break was good. I know mine was. I know Jett's was. At least I hope it was. It is a pretty rainy, disgusting day here in Bloomington, Indiana. I hope it is nicer in Tampa, Florida. Jett, what's going on, man?
Yeah, it's nice and sunny down here in South Florida. Nice 70 degrees. Nice out right now. Coming off a couple week break from the podcast after a nice Thanksgiving break, but we are ready to go and back to help you for the stretch run for your fantasy leagues. The playoffs are fastly approaching, and we have another great show planned for you guys today. We're going to start off as always talking about the Blitz League. A lot to get to in that. A lot of exciting news coming out of that league. Then Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, among other running backs, are now injured. What's the plan now? How do you approach going forward without those guys in your lineups? How are their backups going to fare? And what's really the game plan going forward? And then we will get into some guys that we believe will be league winners come fantasy playoff time. The guys that will have those Stephon Diggs, Alvin Kamara, like performances from last year that will take you to the promised land. And finally, Austin and I will give you some defenses that we believe you should stash that will give you an edge over your opponents, because every position matters. Not a lot of people focus on certain positions, but every position counts, every point counts. So it's going to be another exciting show. Austin, you ready to get started?
Always. Let's do it.
Are you sure? Because we're going to start off with the Blitz League. Austin and I faced off for the second time this year, and this time I came out on top. This is my 7th win in a row, actually, bringing my record to a 7-5. Austin fell to 8-4. I beat him 170.35 to 160.65. Some of my notable performers: Josh Allen, 35 points; Stephon Diggs, 20.9 points; and Patriots defense had 22 points. Austin did have Leonard Fournette and J.D. McKissick, who combined for over 62 points, but that was not enough. Austin, how you feeling after a tough loss to me, and how you feeling after, making fun of my team early on in the year? Now I've really had the last laugh these last 7 weeks.
All right. Here's the deal. You won last week. Congratulations. Seriously, we'll call the freaking marching band for you. All right. How about that? All right. My team has not been healthy all year. Okay, Kyler Murray's been out. Whatever the hell he's been doing. It's been ridiculous. I have not had a good Amari Cooper the entire year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been out basically most of the year. I was missing both the Chiefs players last week on bye. It's been a struggle. I have not made one single trade. I'm still playing for. I'm still ahead of you. Now this week, I have a full team back, ready to go. Kyler, I think, is going to play finally, and I do not have to play Jimmy Garoppolo anymore, who, by the way, has been fine. But Kyler Murray is, he's Kyler Murray. Like, he's a fantasy god. So, took the loss last week. It's okay. 2 games left in regular season. I'm still in second place. I'm still a game ahead of you. I'm going to win out the rest of the regular season, get my first round bye. I'm going to watch you lose in the first round, okay? That's how that goes.
I mean, you can dream for sure. I mean, it's obviously no guarantee.
Oh, no, it's no dream. I see the future.
I mean, yeah, you're projected a decent amount of points this week at 195.
What's my projection again?
Yeah, you're projecting 195.
Right.
I'm projecting 189, but I am the hottest team in the league right now. I've won 7 straight. And part of the reason that I've been doing better than Austin is because I've been actually willing to make some trades. Austin's just kind of sat back and watched his team just fall apart, and hope that Jimmy Garoppolo can save the day. And while he did do his job, I don't know if Austin's team's gonna have enough in it to really get that first round bye and really win this league. Not saying that I'm a lock to win this league either. I like my chances for sure, but there's a lot of other good teams in this league. Ashton and David both are sitting at 8-4 and have very good teams as well. So
garbage.
It's gonna be very, very interesting to see how it all pans out.
Garbage, Jeff. You know what's funny? I don't know if you've heard of this. What goes up must come down. You've been riding high. Your 7-game win streak. You sitting on your high horse, feeling all good about yourself, even feeling good about that stupid looking beard. You're gonna crash. You're gonna fall, and when you do, I'm gonna be standing right there, literally like this, literally pointing at you like that. So,
well, first of all, I mean, what goes up must come down, and I'm fine if it comes down before the playoffs, but I'll go right back up once the playoffs come around, and I'll be ready to go with all of my acquisitions I made during the year. I mean,
you keep that same energy, big boy. You keep that same energy.
Yeah, but so Austin is right now in second place in Division 2 behind Ashton. Austin has less points than me and Ashton, who are both in the same division.
But you try having a half a team for most of the season. Let's see how you do.
And also, I want to point out, even with Austin complaining about having half of the team, he's allowed the second fewest points in the league. So his schedule has been very, very much so on the lighter side of things.
Oh, it has been. I'm thankful.
Yeah, I mean, I've given up a decent amount of points, almost 200 more than Austin, and I've scored more than Austin. So, I mean, you can
Jett,
put our
Jett. This is smallest violin. Nobody cares. Smallest violin.
Yeah, we'll see if anybody cares once you're talking all this, and then we'll see where both of our teams end up, and if you really get that first round bye, because I'm right there with you. So,
but you're a little behind me, and that's where I like to keep you. I'm right there, like you see me, you think I'm in reach, but you're never actually gonna catch me. It's all this on purpose. It's all just to mess with your mind. I'm already in your head. You don't even know it yet.
All right, before we get carried away here, and Austin starts ranting on about these these sayings that he has about nonsense stuff, but let's move on to our next segment. The injury bug has taken a hold of the running back position in the NFL, and it is definitely taking a toll on a lot of fantasy teams out there. Christian McCaffrey is now out for the remainder of the year. Dalvin Cook is out for the foreseeable future. DeAndre Swift will be missing 1 or 2 of the next games. We've seen other running backs deal with injuries. Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott is not healthy, among many others. And Austin, I don't know if you have any of these guys in any of your leagues, but if you do, what is your strategy for dealing with these kinds of injuries?
I mean, now that depending on the league, but the trade deadline has passed, I know, for a lot of leagues. So it's not like you can go out there and trade for one of the backups to those running backs that you mentioned. But if you do have one of the backups, which I do have some of them, I think some of the backups will be really good, and I think some of them are just going to disappoint. For example, I do not think Chuba Hubbard, however the hell you say his name.
Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard, whatever. I don't think he's going to do that well. We saw him have time earlier in the year. Really wasn't much. Also, Cam's a quarterback, so he's going to take some of Hubbard's rushes away. Don't expect much from him. But a guy like Tony Pollard with Elliott, probably, he may be out for a little while just to rest his knee. I saw a couple reports today. I think Pollard's going to be very good. Same with Alexander Madison. I think Madison's going to take the Dalvin Cook role. Only in the highest esteem. I think he's going to be great. Who else did we say was hurt?
We have Jamal Williams now in the place of DeAndre Swift.
Love that. Jamal Williams is he's a workhorse. He's a bull. We saw him in Green Bay the past few years. When Aaron Jones was hurt, Jamal Williams did a really good job taking over the backfield. And I expect no difference here in Detroit, especially since they really don't have anyone else to go to except for Hawkinson, who's basically quadruple teamed every game. I expect Jamal Williams to have a big part.
Another one we could see, he's questionable to play right now. We could see Sony Michel take over the backfield in LA with Darrell Henderson dealing with a quadricep injury.
That really not enticing to me. The Rams are a passing team, 100%. And I think they trust Henderson more than Michel to catch the ball. So I imagine you're going to see a lot more production out of Odell. Obviously Cooper Kupp, Higbee, Van Jefferson. I think they're going to throw a lot more. So Sony Michel is not an enticing play to me.
So let's have you rank these running backs we just talked about in order of who you prefer the most the rest of the way. So Madison, Pollard, Jamal Williams, Sony Michel, and who's the other one?
Hubbard.
Yeah, Hubbard.
Madison's first. He's very similar to Dalvin Cook in terms of their playing style. They're north-south guys. They run hard to the hole. They can both catch out of the backfield. Same kind of player. Cook's obviously Dalvin Cook, so he's a little better, but similar playing styles. I love Tony Pollard next. I think he's more explosive running back than Elliott. Elliott's more of a workhorse. He can really go into a defensive lineman and drive him back, but Pollard is much more explosive. I think he's a better catching back, actually. And I expect Pollard to step into a starting role if Elliott's really going to be out and do a heck of a job. Next, I love Jamal Williams. We saw what he did at Green Bay. He's a very good pass catching back. He come in for third down plays a lot. And I expect Detroit to utilize him heavily. Next, I'm going to have to go with Chuba Hubbard. He's starting running back in Carolina. They still use him enough where he'll put up RB2 numbers, but that's all you can expect from him. And then Sony Michel, I won't even play him. I don't think he's worth a start.
Yeah, just going off of the Chuba Hubbard, when he was playing, he was using a workhorse role, but he just was never putting in that RB1, RB2 production. And a part of that is they were using Amir Abdullah a lot in the passing game. So I think that in the end, we could see potentially Amir Abdullah being more productive than Chuba Hubbard, just because, especially if it is a PPR league. But I for the rest of those rankings, I do agree. If any of those guys are still out there on your waiver wires,
get them.
Go pause this podcast right now and pick them up immediately, because they are a couple of, like Madison, Pollard, and Jamal Williams. They're in my opinion must starts for this week, and must starts while their guys in front of them are out. But like Austin said, now that the trade deadline has passed in a lot of these leagues, if you don't have the depth already, you're just going to have to, start whoever else you have on that bench. It might not be a pretty lineup, but you just got to hope for the best and hope that, Dalvin Cook will return soon, DeAndre Swift. Hopefully some of these guys are healthy enough for the fantasy playoffs, because obviously they are very important to all of our teams for sure.
Absolutely. And one of my other leagues, I have DeAndre Swift, and my only backup running back to him is, of course, Michael Carter, who is on IR. So I have to go out and pick up a guy on the waiver wire, and only guy I can think of is picking up David Johnson. Only guy. So yeah, that's where I'm at in one of my leagues. Not very happy.
Stuff like that. I know in a couple of leagues that I was seeing, some of the guys available, there was no Madison, there was no Williams, there was no Pollard available. So you have to resort guys like a Boston Scott or an Alex Collins or Tevin Coleman. If they get you 10 points, you should be pleased, but
that's all you can ask.
Yeah, that's all you can ask. But all right, let's move on to our next segment with the fantasy playoffs just a few weeks away, maybe a week away if you started a little bit early. We want to try and find those guys that are going to have those big games that'll move you on to the next round, potentially win you a championship. We saw Alvin Kamara go off last year. We saw Stephon Diggs go off last year in the fantasy playoffs. We could definitely see some of these players we're about to talk about have these types of performances as well. So Austin, I'll start off with you. Who is someone that you think is going to win people some leagues come fantasy playoff time?
So this is a guy who was not drafted super high. Jett, you had very high hopes for him coming into the season when we discussed this topic. Jalen Waddle.
Yes.
I gotta say, I thought it'd be good. I did not think he'd be this good. But he has really come into his own this season. Comes into week 13 as the overall wide receiver 10. Unbelievable. The last couple weeks, he has been remarkable. Week 11 against the Jets, 20.6 points. Last week, 28.7. His Tua, he is Tua's number one guy, and it's not even close right anymore. I thought it was Gesicki, but it is clearly Jalen Waddle at this point. So, starting from week 9 till now, 8 targets, 10 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. He is the dude. He is volume driven, and he's a very, very favorable schedule down the stretch. Week 15, he plays the Jets. 16, he plays the Saints, who really are struggling. Week 17, plays the Titans. on, week 18 plays New England, but week 18 is typically not a playoff week. So Jalen Waddle is a guy I want to have down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle and Tua, they played together at Alabama, and clearly that connection is still
Now
there.
the connection is strong.
It's extremely strong, and Jalen Waddle has been a machine, especially in PPR formats. I think he's on pace to break some of the rookie reception records. I mean, he's right up there now with Jamar Chase among rookie wide receivers, arguably better these last several weeks. And for fantasy purposes, if you drafted Jalen Waddle late in your drafts, you should be ecstatic right now because he is a wide receiver 1 right now.
He's a wide receiver 1, believe it or not. He is a true wide receiver 1 at this moment.
Yeah, we've seen so many rookie wide receivers these past several years really do the not the normal. Like we've seen so many produce at a high level, and it's good to see because there's been plenty of young wide receivers stepping up to the plate, and Jalen Waddle's definitely one of them. But I'm going to turn over to the running back position, and a guy that I like in fantasy playoff time that really has been a disappointment for much of the year, but these 2 of the past 3 weeks, he has kind of turned things around. Antony Gibson of the Washington football team, for most of the early parts of the season, he was dealing with injuries, but it seems after that bye week, he has kind of really got back to closer to full health. This past week, he had 29 carries for 111 yards, along with 7 receptions for 35 yards. Didn't even score a touchdown. This was sort of the Christian McCaffrey type role that we thought we were going to see for a large part of the year. Him getting this volume in both in the rushing and receiving game. I think that Antony Gibson is poised for a great end to the season. I think he's going to be an RB1 the rest of the way, and he has a nice playoff schedule as well. He gets the Eagles and Cowboys twice. They both have been just okay against opposing running backs for fantasy points. And if Antony Gibson keeps getting this volume, especially with J.D. McKissick dealing with an injury now, he is going to definitely win people some leagues.
That's big. I'm with you. Antony Gibson, I was high on him coming into the season. I really thought he'd get a bigger role this year after an incredible rookie season. It has been a disappointment, but 2 nights ago was very encouraging. The first time he got major volume this year. It's very encouraging.
It looks like he's back. Like from like all that injury concerns, It looks like he's finally healthy.
Yep, thank God.
All right, who's your second guy?
My second guy. So we're going to stay in the running back category. And matter of fact, we're going to stay in the NFC least right now. Notice I said least because every team really sucks right now. Even the Cowboys are playing awful right now. But I'm going to go with the guy on my Giants, Saquon Barkley, who has been really a disappointment this year for the most part. A lot of it due to injury. He has not been able to stay healthy. But coming off now a second injury, the past couple weeks have been mediocre, really. I mean, he had 11.6 against Tampa, week 11. He only had 9.3 last week against Philly. But we saw this happen at the beginning of the season when he came back. They brought him in slowly. Week 1, he only had 10 rush attempts. Week 2, 13. Week 3, 16. Like, they're slowly going to bring him back in again, not rush him into it. The first week he was back off his second injury against Tampa. He had 6 carries. Last week against Philly, 13. Long as he stays healthy, which I gotta believe he will, but who knows at this point. I'm just being an optimistic Giants fan. But if he stays healthy, his volume will go up more and more, and you will eventually start seeing that Saquon Barkley that lit up the Saints in week 4 for 29.6 points. So I think he's a guy, if the trade deadline has not passed yet, do not get rid of him. Keep him. And if you are looking for a running back, try to buy low on him if you still can, because I guarantee you he will pop off towards the end of the season. He has a very good schedule down the stretch. Plays the Chargers, who have been pretty poor against the run. Plays Dallas, who's actually been pretty good, but Saquon's such a volume-driven guy. Plays the Eagles again, who've not been good against the run. So Saquon Barkley, he's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some concern about Saquon Barkley the rest of the way, just because we haven't really seen what we're accustomed to seeing from him. Yeah, he's been slowly, like you've been saying, easing back into the swing of things. And really, if you have Saquon Barkley on your team, you're going to start him. You're just going to have to hope that he finally sort of is more efficient with the volume that he's receiving, and maybe starts to find the end zone a little bit more. I know it's hard when you are a part of a Giants offense now led by Freddie Kitchens. It's not so easy, especially now with Mike Glennon also going to be the quarterback this upcoming week. But
don't remind me.
Saquon Barkley is the focal point of this offense, and if he's used more as the weapon that he is, especially in the receiving game, he should easily give you 15 to 20 points a game, regardless if he scores a touchdown or not, because we know how talented Saquon is. And if he's just utilized correctly, he will be fine for fantasy owners and fine for the NFL the rest of this season.
He just needs to stay healthy. That's it.
Yes,
if he's healthy, he is a lock-in RB1 every week. It's that simple.
Yes.
You just can't stay healthy. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right, we're sticking in the NFC East, and we're sticking on the Washington football team. The guy that I'm going to be talking about now that I think is going to win people some leagues is Logan Thomas on the Washington football team, tight end. And we've really forgotten a lot about him because he's missed so many games throughout this year. I mean, he returned from injury this past week against the Seahawks. He had 3 receptions on 6 targets for 31 yards. Not a spectacular outing, but he was coming off of injury. He missed 7 total games, but he is now back. And I think with the schedule that he has remaining and the way that this Washington offense has been sort of grooving these past several weeks, they're on a 3-game winning streak. I think Logan Thomas is going to be great, especially for those fantasy teams that are dealing with the epidemic that is the tight end position. Some notable teams that that Washington does play. They play the Eagles twice, and they have allowed the most fantasy points to the tight end position this year, along with the Cowboys twice, who have allowed the 11th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I think Logan Thomas is going to be a great play. I think he's going to be very volume driven. And from the tight end, we're asking for 10 points, but I think we potentially will see a couple blow up games from Logan Thomas in the final stretch of the season.
I really would. I cannot argue with that. I really cannot argue with that. Logan Thomas, I thought he'd be a top 10 tight end this year, and it looked like he was going to be that guy until he got hurt. But Logan Thomas, excellent tight end play.
All right. Now, we mentioned it a little bit before, but having a defense that's going to give you points, it could be
comes a long way. It goes a long way. They have one of those weeks. Oh my God, it makes all the difference.
Well, a lot of people don't pay as much attention to these sorts of things because they just think, oh, I'll just pick any defense as long as they give me 5 to 10 points. It is what it is. But if you pick up the right defense with the right matchup, and they go off, they have potential to swing your week in your favor. So Austin and I are going to talk about some defenses we are stashing and that we like for the fantasy playoffs. Austin, who's the defense you like?
First defense I'm choosing. They have been on fire lately. Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
They have been on fire as of late. Let's start in week 9. Gave up 9 points. I know to Houston, so 9 points. Week 10, only gave up 10 points to Baltimore. Week 11, only 17. Week 12, gave up, or last week, only 10. Like, they have been on fire in those weeks. The Miami defense scored 15, 14, 1 against the Jets, unfortunately, but 24 last week. Like, they have been on fire, and they have a great playoff schedule. Week 15, play the Jets. It's the Jets. 16, they play the Saints, who really are not a scary team without Winston anymore, even with Kamara, but they are not a scary team whatsoever. That's a mouth-watering matchup. Then they end off with Tennessee, who without Derrick Henry, unless he's back, even then, without Derrick Henry, Tennessee offense has just been dormant. So I love Miami down the stretch.
Yeah, that's a great option. The Dolphins defense has finally turned it around. After starting the season not great at all. They've largely underwhelmed for most of this season. But one of the defenses that I'm looking at, one of 2 defenses I'm looking at the rest of this way, are the San Francisco 49ers. They have a couple matchups that I really like. While they haven't been a spectacular defense throughout the course of the year, when you're picking out your defense, a lot of it really has to do with the matchups. And I'm looking at they have a matchup championship weekend against the Houston Texans, along with a matchup against the Atlanta Falcons in the first round of most people's playoffs. You got the 49ers going against the Texans team that is one of the worst in the league. They just lost to the Jets. I'll give me the 49ers to at least score double digits, force a couple turnovers from Tyrod Taylor, and potentially win your league in championship weekend.
I like that. I like that a lot. Niners are on fire right now, so they're playing out of their minds at the moment. They're looking like a scary team.
Yes.
But one more defense I want to go over quickly.
Yeah.
They've been good all year, but they have a very good schedule down the stretch. Do not give this defense up, Buffalo Bills. They have been fantastic so far, and I'll make it very simple. Their playoff schedule is so sweet. Week 15, they played Carolina, who just looks awful, and now without McCaffrey, I don't think their offense is going to be anything special. Then they play the Patriots, who, even though they're on a major win streak right now, their offense still isn't explosive. They beat you slowly. And I think the Buffalo Bills, I think that would be a low-scoring game for the Patriots. So I think Buffalo's going to really thrive in that game, and they end up Week 17 against Atlanta, who you just alluded to, is one of the worst offenses in football. So that's so enticing, Buffalo's schedule. So Buffalo, Miami, even the Patriots, honestly, at this point, their defense is playing amazing. So any of those three, take them.
Yeah, one thing I will say is if you have any of those top scoring defenses like the Patriots, like the Cardinals, they've been doing so well regardless of the matchup all year. So you might as well ride it out with them. Even if there is going to be some difficult matchup. The Patriots play the Jaguars Week 17 fantasy football championship weekend. That's a great matchup for them. But
even the Patriots play the Bills this weekend. I'm still starting them in one of my leagues. I have no problem starting them. I think it's Bill Belichick. I think they're going to give Josh Allen trouble, who we've seen, by the way. We've seen the Bills have some trouble scoring this year.
Yeah, the Patriots come in. Yeah, the Patriots are the number one fantasy defense for a reason, and there's no real good reason to sit them at this point, especially with how well they've done. But the final defense that I want to talk about, this defense really has not been great at all from a fantasy perspective. They're in the bottom half of defenses in fantasy points. But again, I'm looking at their matchups the rest of the way, and they have a few good ones. The Los Angeles Chargers, Week 14, they play the Giants. Week 16, they play the Texans. In Week 17, they play the Broncos. Those are all 3+ matchups. I know the Chargers defense hasn't been great, but if they could just force a couple of turnovers, a couple of picks, a couple of fumbles, get a couple sacks, they could really have a successful day in your team and be very worth it for sure.
You did watch the Chargers Broncos game this past weekend, right?
I watched. Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that. I still think that the Broncos are. That game was also in Denver, and Denver's a very tough place to play in.
It's tough.
So I think I would like their chance a little bit more at home, even though they don't have much of a crowd as it is. But I just think the environment itself would be a lot better. And plus, like they had that matchup against the Texans Week 16, which is a very good matchup. So
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. And I cannot believe I'm saying that, but I hope you're right.
All right. Before we get out of here, I want to keep everyone updated on how the Pick'em challenge has been going between Austin and myself, and then Austin and I will give our upset picks of the week. We'll both have those ready as well. So Austin's catching up to me after going 9-5 Week 11, and I went 7-7 in Week 11. Austin went 8-7 in Week 12, and I had a 5-10 week in Week 12. So now Austin has closed the gap. It is now a one game deficit behind me. I am 39-32. Austin is 38-33. So he made up all that ground this past week. We'll see if he can keep it going. We'll make our picks off air, and then we'll give everyone an update on the results for the pickup standings. But we are going to talk about our upsets of the week, and I'll start us off. Yeah, I'll start us off. So there's a couple games that I'm really looking at for a potential upset of the week. The Bengals are favored by 3 over the Chargers right now. The Chargers could potentially win that game. Could we see the Lions finally win a game. The Jets are coming off a big win. They're playing the Eagles, who just struggled against the Jets. Washington's been hot. Las Vegas is favored against them. But the upset of the week that I'm going to pick is going to be the Patriots over the Bills on Monday Night Football. The Bills are favored right now, 2.5 points. They are the home team. And frankly, the Patriots are the hottest team in the league right now. And frankly, they're the better team. And I get this game is in Buffalo, and Buffalo has been inconsistent though. That's the thing. I just feel like Bill Belichick has really got this team going in the right direction. Maybe they don't need Tom Brady. Obviously, Mac Jones is not on his level just yet, but he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league from a completion percentage perspective. He's been right up there with the best. And I think the Patriots go on the road, get a win in Buffalo, and sort of establish themselves as the AFC East champion.
Not only that, they're the number one team in the AFC.
Yes,
the whole AFC.
Right.
Forget the AFC East for a second. They're the number one team in the whole AFC, which is amazing. And listen, good for Bill Belichick. Good for him. He really built himself a squad this year.
Yes,
he's done an amazing job coaching.
They have no one flashy really on that team. It's just a bunch of guys that fit in that system and just get the job done every day.
Absolutely. Well, you just stole my upset of the week, so that makes my life a little bit more difficult. But another upset I'm looking at, and you just alluded to it, there's a few. I think the Giants are one of my upset alerts. But if Daniel Jones plays, I believe the Giants will upset the Dolphins. But I'm not gonna go there. My upset of the week will be the Chargers taking on the Bengals.
Okay.
I think this is a bit after last week's embarrassment against the Broncos. I think Los Angeles really needs a win. They need it desperately. They're in a little desperation mode right now. The Bengals are funny to me. They can look like a Super Bowl contending team one week, and they can look like a team that's getting the number one draft pick another week.
Yep. So
this is the week I think everyone's going to be on Cincy. They've been playing really well as of late. Chargers coming off a loss. This is why I think the Chargers bounce back. So Chargers, my upset of the week.
I like it a lot. I really do. We'll have to see if Austin can take the lead over me in the NFL pick'em. It's going to be another exciting week. We'll make sure to give you all those results. And we're getting into the final weeks of the fantasy football regular season. So a lot of people want to clinch that final playoff spot, clinch that top seed. We'll see if Austin can get a first round bye in the Blitz League. I'll be right behind him. So he's not going to have a cakewalk at that, but it's going to be a very fun end to the fantasy regular season and into the fantasy playoffs as well.
100%. I cannot wait. I cannot believe we are just 2 weeks away from the fantasy playoffs starting. It has been a wild season, and it's gone very quickly.
Yes, it has gone very quickly. A lot of twists and turns, ups and downs. As always, it's been a from an NFL perspective, there's been a lot of parity this year. There's really not like one clear team that stands out above the rest. But yeah, as always, check out our articles on blitzleague.com. The whole team has a bunch of fantasy football content as well as other NFL content to keep you locked in on the NFL season. And yeah, Austin, you want to take us out of here before we get going?
Jett says to you every week, and you still do not listen to me. But if you cannot handle the heat, get your butt out of the kitchen, my friend.
All right. A little twist on that one. All right, guys. Thank you, and we will see you next time.
See you guys. Thank you.